Hey, this is Leif Gamford. I played the cash register thief in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, this is Rich McDonald, and I play Commander David Mason on Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek Podcast.
Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek Podcast.
Hey, it's James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Master Plo Koon in Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you're listening to Everything Geek, the podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Ruari, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have actor Peter Shinkoda, who is best known for playing Nobu in the Daredevil series, Die in Falling Skies, Ferrain in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Masked Rider, Muto Crow's Test Tech 1 in Godzilla, and Sektor in Mortal Kombat Legacy. So how are you today, Peter?
Doing very well, Rory. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the podcast today.
It's a pleasure to always be in demand. It's crazy and still very surreal to me.
Definitely, it's a great way to look at things when you're in demand. So, moving right into my first question for you, Peter. My first question is, how did you decide you wanted to become an actor?
Well, I was a fan, I suppose, just like you and billions of other people out there in the world. It started off just becoming really obsessed with television first and then films, to the point where I was very obsessive. My favorite thing to do in life was to go watch movies, sometimes 3 in a row. I'd just sit there and, lie down and hide between the chairs in the goo, in the popcorn and the dried up syrupy pop and soft drinks and garbage. And I'd just watch movies so incessantly. It came to a point where it was obvious to me that on television I wasn't very satisfied. I wasn't very convinced with a lot of the Asian roles that I was witnessing, and it kind of that evolved into a kind of I was disappointed in a lot of these roles, and I felt that maybe perhaps I had the goods to go and participate, in making these movies as opposed to being just a viewer, and maybe perhaps change things, because I thought I could do a better job, or at least convince Hollywood to do a better portrayal of Asian Americans. It was very I was actually very sad, because I loved movies so much, and I admired everything that was done in Hollywood and TV and films, except for the one aspect of how they reflected upon me as a person. And I felt that maybe I could change some things, because I never experienced any kind of any real harsh racism or anything. I had a very charmed life, and surrounded by really great people up here in Canada and friends. And I just thought, I wanted to just give a better representation of what it was like to be at least an Asian American or Asian Canadian. So I migrated there and still giving it my best shot.
It's really interesting, not just because you were a fan of movies yourself when you were younger, and that's why I wanted to become an actor, but the way you wanted to see a better portrayal of Asians in movies. I think that's actually really great and well done for that.
It was
because
also, of course, I'd have little incidents of the racism directed towards me, and I felt that if I could change that and put stronger characters up there, that not only would I, it wouldn't be like beating somebody up in the schoolyard and then getting the respect of a schoolyard. There's a big reach in Hollywood. They're very influential, and I thought that if you could beat somebody up and the whole world sees it, you'll gain that much more respect. It's just a bigger reach. It's more widespread, the messages that they put out there. So I felt that it was kind of like winning a big fight in the schoolyard of the world. So
yeah,
it was never
absolutely.
about money. It was never about fame. You can take my name away or anything. If there was a bunch of guys, or if there was 20 Bruce Lees out there, but not necessarily fighting with this one character that was strong and a very good representation, but it's also one-dimensional. That version of the Asian man. There's other guys that can be lawyers. They can be villains. But he was definitely a strong, a symbol for Asian men, and certainly the only guy that I could look up to until like Jackie Chan, Jet Li came out. But those are also foreign films. But at least the one, Enter the Dragon, the one with from Warner Brothers, you saw that. I wasn't alive, but my understanding is when it came out, kids, everybody in the United States had a pair of nunchucks. You could walk down Hollywood Boulevard or through anywhere in Los Angeles, and every kid had nunchucks. That's how influential Hollywood is. But growing up, I had Indiana Jones and Han Solo, Luke Skywalker. I had all these Caucasian characters that I loved. I just thought it was a little unfair, the playing field. So I figured, I'd go there, and maybe I had the prerequisites to being to being perhaps a strong character in a Hollywood film or television show. But Bruce Lee was the only one. I thought that was not enough, And again, it was only one side of the strong guy, a guy that can talk with his fists. There's other guys that are political activists or perhaps doctors and lawyers. You can be strong and influential and respected in many ways, but it's growing. I think times are changing, and I love the trajectory that Hollywood is taking right now. So
Definitely, that's a really great answer. Thank you for that. Moving on to my second question, how were you initially cast as Nobu in the Daredevil series?
It was very straightforward, the standard process. You have reps, manager, and agent, and the cat's out of the bag now. They said, listen, we have this show. It's called Wink Wink Daredevil, and it's this tentative name. At the time, it was Bluff. I said blind man's bluff. Pretty clever, right? So even in our correspondences online, in the subject line, it would be Bluff. Actually, they didn't tell me it was Daredevil at the beginning, but when I read it, it rang like Daredevil, because I had several auditions before I even knew I was playing this character Nobu. In fact, maybe a few days before I shot, I didn't even know my character's name was Nobu. I thought it was Hachiro, just like the press had leaked maybe a year before, or right when we began shooting in New York City. They said that I was Hachiro. Of course, Marvel, they're a wily bunch over there, and I guess they released Hachiro. The thing, I was called Hachiro, I understand, because my second audition, I had a role and I had my material that I had to audition for, and it was Hachiro. But the first one I got was a guy, I forget the name of it, but it was actually Wesley's dialogue. It was this long, probably the longest scene he ever had, and all Wesley's scenes are long. but one of his introduction scenes where he comes in to a very fledgling Nelson and Murdoch law firm, and he goes and he kind of interviews them almost, but he's offering them a job to work for I think for the Kingpin's company, or one of the bigger, the company that Marcy works for. He wanted to bring them in on that legal team, and he kind of was cross-examining them to see if they were of the right frame of mind to work for him, because they wanted them on their side. So anyways, it was that scene, and it was maybe 6-7 pages that was done, that was acted brilliantly by Toby Leonard Moore, who's just a genius actor and just an all-around nice guy. But it was his dialogue, and I went in and read for that, and I'm like, I don't look like a Wesley, who sounds perhaps Irish American, I don't know, but when I saw Wesley, I'm like, this is Daredevil, because he was talking to 2 lawyers, right? So I put it together, and then I saw the subject, the subject line in the email was bluff. So I'm like, I'm reading for Daredevil, man. I gotta be. So I read all that as an Asian American Wesley, and I guess I impressed upon them enough that they called me, they recontacted me and asked me to read for another role, and that again was Wesley's material. When he goes up and very sinister-like tells that the beat cop at the beginning that he has to carry out an assassination of Karen Page in her cell in the pilot episode. And I read that as a sinister Japanese guy, and on the material that they sent me, I was told that the character was Hachiro. So I read it very sinister-like with a Japanese accent. And then I was told that they were interested in signing me, and that was it. Then weeks went by, and eventually I got to New York, and I was sent the first script a few days before we were shooting, and I had to call my reps and say, you know what, there's a guy that's described here in the script. It sounds exactly, it describes me physically, except this guy's not talking. He's just standing around making mean faces and saying that, he's very alert and he's almost superhuman and he can see everything and read everybody, and he doesn't feel cold. I'm like, I was very concerned for a few moments, but I called my reps. They called on a Sunday night. They called Marvel at their production office in Brooklyn, and they were reluctant to, my reps. I said, I don't care. It's Sunday nights. We're shooting in a few days. I need to know because, listen, I didn't walk into this agreement. I don't know what's going on. I knew I had pages of dialogue. It turns out that, they explained to me that I was going to become this Nobu character. And that was exciting to me because I'm like, ooh, I could be a supervillain here, but they're holding all their cards very close to their chest, Marvel. But they answered that night. Very readily they answered my reps and gave me the real answer. And that was it. I walked into the production. I was pleased with it. I met Toby, and he knocked it out of the park every moment he's on screen. He's just an amazing actor. And I eventually learned from the bunch of personalities working on the show that they did that as a weeding out process, and they had to know that the actor, could act. And it was just a testing process, and they I guess they were convinced because I handled a bunch of Wesley's scenes as well as I could, and then I delivered with the Japanese version of it in the next in the next elimination round, I guess. So that was it. It was kind of grueling, and I was in the dark, but it ended up well, and I'd do it all over again because, hey man, I'm a supervillain, so that's how it happened, Rory.
It's very interesting. It definitely sounded like it was a long, grueling process and a lot of waiting.
Not as much waiting. They moved pretty quickly, but I was like, I have to jump through hoops here. And I would have, because I knew I've been following Marvel since I was a child, and just a few months previous to this whole auditioning process, I had known that the property, the IP, had returned back it had gone back into Marvel's hands from Sony Columbia. After they didn't have a new Daredevil reboot on the slate of production, right? And they had to keep their keep their rights to it, they had to revisit again, and I don't think that they were ready to do that, Sony. So they turned it over back to Marvel. Marvel moved fast on it. I heard they were going to make a feature. Then I didn't hear anything else other than that. Marvel was going to do a bunch of shows in New York, and then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, I'm getting this opportunity to read. And then I knew it was Daredevil. I'm like, I'll do anything to be in the show. I mean, Daredevil is one of my favorite. Like, I read all comics, DC as well. Anything I could get my hands on, but I was spending all my allowance on Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Man's Amazing Friends, Daredevil, X-Men, New Mutants, and Wolverine. Those are my favorites. So to live, to be flesh and blood in a live action Daredevil, I would have given my, I would have given my left arm. Believe me, it's still a dream come true.
Well, thankfully for our listeners, if you watch Daredevil, you will see Peter still has his arm.
Well,
so.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of crispy.
Yeah, well, that's true. That is very true. Moving on to my third question, can you talk about the filming process for the fight scene in Nobu's last episode?
It was, everything was ramping up to that because I appeared in 5 of the episodes. And again, between 8 and 9, I was guaranteed 5 episodes, which Marvel fulfilled. And I was on my 4th. And of course, in preparation for the following episode 9, I knew that I was anticipating something big because everybody's going, "Hey, Pete, did you read episode 9 yet?" I'm like, "No, you should be in the gym. Are you going to the gym? Because when you don't go to the gym, go to the gym." And so I knew that there was something epic was going to happen, some kind of conflict. So that was all I knew. When I eventually did get it, to tell you the truth, all credit goes to Christos and Ruth Fletcher Gage, the married screenwriting head staff writers for the show. They were responsible for that. They wrote that, and of course, every script has names just below the titles, the writers' names, and that stuck with me right when I got that script because I knew it was mine. It was a big one, so they wrote that one. Also, they also do double duty. They also the head staff writers, but they wrote that one specifically together. When I read it, and I hear a lot of compliments about it. It's the structure of that episode. I read a lot of scripts, and that one, and of course I read the 4 that I only had privy to 4 before. The whole Russian storyline I didn't know, so I was watching that. I just love those Russian brothers. They were just incredible because that was new to me. I see these guys on set. I know there's something going on. I knew that they're going to be killed by Daredevil. But they were just amazing episodes too. But like I said, I only had 4 episodes that I had read, the ones that I had contributed to. That was the only knowledge I had of the storyline, and believe me, it was already very detached because they were very. I was getting them in a syncopated way. I was getting to 1, and then I'd miss 1 or 2, then I'd get another one. Anyways, when I got 8, I was shooting 8, I got 9. I read it, and I was blown away, not only by the structure, the opening of it, but I just loved the way that it teased the audience all the way through, with all the time cuts, time jumping, and then the big reveal at the end, and how Matt made his way over to Fisk's lair at the docks. That was incredibly well done, and to tell you the truth, it was very well written. It was kind of pretty visceral in the way you could visualize it as it read off the page. So I had very high hopes, and after reading it, when we did get to go to camera and start shooting it, usually there are 8, maybe 9 days, depending on how hard or how big, how epic the episodes are. But that one took a very long time. I spent one day I had this big scene with Vincent D'Onofrio. I did that scene where I kind of chew him out and we make plans. We did that right off the bat, one of the first days. in the warehouse, and then I think we had a weekend, and then I started we had to work on a fight scene, and we knew that was very difficult from what I'd read, and just all the physicality of it. Every slash is of from Nobu delivered onto Daredevil was written. It was all scripted. Nothing was really improvised. If anything there was it was because they were adding more stunts or more flips on the day. But I went in on that Monday, and we didn't fit on Monday at maybe 7, 8 in the morning. We didn't finish till 1 in the morning Saturday, 6 days later. And I worked hard, but alongside a crew of maybe 150 people. Everybody else worked hard, including the talent in front of the camera, behind the camera. To be honest, I was in there, and I had to do a lot of the fight myself, but a lot of the trick stuff, all the superhuman-looking things, they were done by a bunch of guys, stunt guys. There was me, and there was 3 other gentlemen dressed as Nobu as well. There was Philip Silvera. He's a genius stunt coordinator. He's right now coordinating and stunt doubling Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Maybe they're finished shooting right now. But he was there. He choreographed it all, and he was the one most responsible for training me, previously on set before we started shooting and during shooting. He had to, he had to school me on the chain and the kyoketsu shoge. That's the Japanese scythe thing with the reverse little dagger on it. As much as people believe, people go, well, you're really good. I didn't know you could operate the chain. A lot of people have come up to me and said that. Whereas I've never swung a chain around at anybody in my life. But he gave me the training, and he's masterful at that. So we spent a lot of time out in the parking lot. Everybody was standing way back. And, a lot of the hand stuff and some of the kicks I did. But to tell you the truth, all the acrobatic stuff, there was another genius, super, skilled fellow named Jim Ing, New York-based tricker. That's what they call him, a tricker. I think he was on the U.S. tricking team. Like, there's a community to these guys. There's Chris Brewster. He doubled Charlie Cox. But my guy, I had 3 because there was like I said, Philip Silvera had to do a few of the things of the chain stuff. Any of the close-ups and hand stuff I was doing. There was some incredible footwork done. Like, I'm talking aerial kicks that were launched off of poles and off of the desk. That was done by Jim Ing, who specialized in that and flipping. Then there was another fellow, and I've misplaced his name. I feel bad. Sorry, man. They flew in the fire stuntman specialist. He holds the Guinness World record for the longest full body inferno. Anyways, he was flown in, and he had to get lit up twice. So there was a bunch of people. I'm talking. It was a hugely collaborative process, that whole fight scene. And of course, Charlie was there every minute, of the day as well. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. By the end of the week, a lot of my roles, and in real life, I'm very physical. Like, I love the extreme sports and martial arts, and hockey especially. I'm really a big hockey fanatic. But I was really feeling it on Saturday night, and I also had a lot of friends that were in town that were calling me mid to late in the week every night. Are you coming out? Can you meet us? We're at a bar. Pete, we came to New York to see you. I'm like, you came. I told you, I'm going to be very busy this week. So I ended up working till like 2 or 3, starting at 8 in the morning till 2 or 3, Monday to Friday. When I wrapped at like 1, 2, 3 in the morning, I think on Friday night, they asked me to come back again on Saturday to get additional little clips that they needed to, enhance the fight. We might have, overlooked them during the, the regular work week. I said, absolutely, I'll come in on Saturday. And that turned out to be a very long day as well. But everybody was committed. Everybody was on the same page. And, it seems like everybody enjoyed it. But it was a great experience, fun process. And I'd do it all over again. I'd go back anytime they asked me because I love the role. And gee whiz, I'm out there, living my childhood dreams. I'm like, wow, this is like a frame from a comic book. This is another. It was on my bucket list. I wanted to be a superhero in a Marvel show, and I remember every minute. of those 6 days. It was just it's a dream. It might have hurt me. I had trouble, I'm a little creaky getting out of the bed in the morning, but it was as fast as I could with all the pain. I'd get out of bed and go to set because I was eager, and so was everybody. It was just extremely enjoyable time.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised that there were so many crew members involved. Like, it's just such a big scene, and it's so interesting that the scene in itself just took several days to actually film. That's very interesting.
It was actually a little bit more stuffy later in the week because of the fire stunts, and they had also paramedics there. We had smoke machines and stuff, so it got very congested in there. We had a bunch, we got like 12 firemen in there with hoses and stuff, and a couple fire trucks were out there ready to hose people down, and we've got swinging chains and stuff, and breaking, sparks raining down on me, and breakaway deaths and blood packs, and it was, we have people applying makeup, readjusting my ninja hood, and a lot of things. There's a lot of opportunity for things to go awry, and you need hundreds of people there to stay on schedule, to tweak, final touches, is that kind of thing. We need final touches. We need a readjustment of that, a resetting of this. Bring in the rubber, kyoketsu shoge, the rubber knife. So it's like, okay, everybody, freeze that frame. Let's bring in the double. There's a lot going on. Logistically, it's a very difficult scene to shoot, difficult scene to write, but I thought it was executed amazingly, and it seems that people are responsive, very responsive in a positive way. So I'm happy about that.
Definitely, I completely agree. It was a really well done fight scene. In sticking with but talking about the fight scene, the episode starts with the fight scene before other scenes are shown later in the episode which lead up to the fight. Do you remember if the scenes were filmed in order of how they appeared in the episode, or in the order of the events taking place?
A lot of the stuff that happened in between the fight, I guess that was shot previously and quickly because they're just a lot easier to shoot. Then I guess it was scheduled so that the production would concentrate heavily on this fight. Now, like I mentioned before, when I read it, it read backwards, and there was time cuts, and generally we filmed it in the order of the actual fight if it happened. Like I said, I did have this scene where I meet up with Fisk, and I'm less than impressed. We shot that. We moved on to the fight. I think, yes, one of the first scenes that I shot was my reveal inside that little cubby hole thing where Matt Murdock comes up and he senses my heartbeat. We did shoot that first, and then it is true that we stayed in order because the next scene I shot, and I think this is the only time we used wires in that scene. One of the opening attacks in the scene, I do this power slide, and I slide by him and I give him a back kick into his back. And he goes down on the ground, and then I approach him again. I sweep his legs from out under him. Only in that shot there was some wires so that he would do a complete somersault in the air, and I give him a punch, and then it cuts to the Daredevil credits. That was all written second by second. It was like I give a punch to him, and he spits blood out, and then it cuts to the gorgeous Daredevil opening credits. So we did shoot that next. Then after that, pretty much in chronological order. But then again, we're skipping here and there because it's very hard to keep tabs on every moment. And every moment is like a million years in a fight because it's all done in like little clips, You can't just hold a camera, for pages and pages and pages on a fight. You can't do that. As it's described, so much is happening second to second in a fight scene. So it had to be kind of approached as meticulously as possible, but some things do fall through the cracks. So as the days proceeded in shooting, every once in a while we'd have to go back and go, okay, did we get that little, sequence, that little clip? Because we need to connect that to this. But generally, we were shooting in the order of the fight. If it wasn't interrupted by editing, we were shooting it pretty close to, because I remember the last thing that we did was also the fire. I remember that going, don't make me lie crispy on the ground, with black carbon and gunk all over me. And it's funny because in the end episode, the Nobu burning on the ground is only alluded to by by Wesley and Wilson Fisk's eyeline when he says, "Let him burn." That part, I don't know if there was a dummy on the ground or not, but it certainly wasn't me because I wasn't there. I had wrapped already. I was happy because I didn't want to lie anymore on the ground burning up. In previous jobs, I've lied on the ground dead, and if I could never do that again in life, I prefer not to. But that was the last scene. I remember not being there as he said that, so I was wrapped actually on the whole show at that point. So yeah, we did it chronologically. To answer your question, yeah, we shot it pretty much the way that it would have played out in real time if it wasn't edited.
It's very interesting. Thank you for that answer. Moving on to my fourth question, Nobu was revealed to have an extensive knowledge of martial arts, which he used in his fight against Daredevil. Did you have to go through much training for this scene, or were you already familiar with martial arts? I think you might have mentioned it briefly earlier.
Well, I think I touched on it earlier. Yeah, well, as an Asian kid, and my parents are Japanese. They, of course, as a child, I took kendo, but then I moved on to judo, and then I moved on to karate. And, at that point, it was pretty novel, and everybody expected me to be a martial artist, but I stopped at 15. After, with, all the fundamental, the tools under my belt, I stopped, and I really concentrated on the other sports that I was involved in, that included hockey, football, was a wide receiver, and then I became a ski instructor because at hockey I became too small. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, I did train as a child, but it's not like I won some Eastern European welterweight kickboxing titles like a lot of these actors claim that they have. A lot of times I'll have to use a lot of my physicality and perhaps martial arts, but when an Asian guy fights on screen, I don't care if he's one of the 1,000 guys that Blade kills in the Blade movies, the Asian guys with the sunglasses, they're always getting killed, or you're the lead guy, I don't care, or if the guy, like you're Brandon Lee in Showdown in Little Tokyo, and he gets beaten up more than Dolph Lundgren. Dolph Lundgren's the master, of the martial arts and that. But anyways, I don't care who you are, what you are. If you're Asian and you're going to be throwing down, if you're going to be fighting in a Hollywood TV show or movie, you're always awesome. And if you're always awesome, they're always going to get the awesomest from around the world, wherever. They'll fly them in. So, to tell you the truth, no matter how good I am, they're always going to enhance my fighting with these genius specialists that are on the Olympic teams. These guys are really on national teams, and they, the organic segue is to go into show business because they're already in kind of a show business. They go on to do these events. Then they get scouted by stunt crews and stunt coordinators, and then they fall into it like Chris Brewster and Philip Silvera and this Jim Ng, who was a tricker, who was also one of my doubles. These guys all each know each other from the martial arts circuit since they were 5, and I see them repeatedly over the years. I see them all the time because they're always brought into stunt meet, no matter what. And these guys, even if I'm falling off a motorcycle, these guys are coming in. And they're like, 4th Dan black belts and stuff. And, they fought in the Olympics. These guys are the best in the world. So if you ever see me fight, I don't care if I'm getting beaten in a fight and I lose the fight, they're still going to have the best in the world there to step in for me when needed, And I give all credit to these guys. They're incredible. Like, I specialize in acting. Yes, I know martial arts. But I can't touch these guys. These guys are assassin deadly. They're just amazing. I stand there too with my mouth agape as well, just like everybody else in the crew going, what the F? These guys are incredible. They're like godlike in their abilities, and I applaud them. And I thank them because their job is to die before me. They got chains swinging around, they could be maimed, blinded, seriously hurt at any moment. when they stepped in for me. So I'm very grateful to these fellows for doing that job and doing it amazingly. Their job is to get hurt for you. If they don't get hurt, they're lucky. That's good. But I have much respect for them. They're just amazing at what they do.
It's a really good answer. Thank you for that. Moving on to my fifth question, can you tell us about your experience working under Steven Spielberg as one of the lead characters die in Falling Skies?
Of course. That show, which is airing, just started airing its fifth and final season just a couple days ago. It'll always remain probably the most was one of the best moments of my life. First of all, having landed it, I remember booking the role, and I just collapsed to the floor and just cried on the floor for like 20 minutes because it's been a long road. It's very hard. Commend anybody that chases a dream in Hollywood. It was difficult, but I've been putting it in. Been putting in the effort for decades, it seems. But growing up, one of the first movies I saw was Close Encounters. Not in the theaters. I saw it. It was on TV, Movie of the Week or something, and as well as Jaws, and I saw Indiana Jones and at a drive-in that my parents took me to, and I forced them to hide me in the trunk, even though they said it would be too violent. I said, "You want to see violence, Mom and Dad? Don't take me to Raiders of the Lost Ark. You're going to see violence." Anyways, I forced them to take me. I forced them to take me to that, and of course, I also was a huge fan of George Lucas at the time too. But between Spielberg, Lucas, and Stan Lee, I was like, well, they're the best storytellers the universe has ever known, other than Shakespeare. Everybody knows who these people are, especially Spielberg and Stan Lee. And Spielberg, I'd been a fan since the beginning. I'd be reading the making of, Steven Spielberg films or the Star Wars before the movies even came out. I'd be buying these, the making of books. I have the Jaws log. There's Carl Gottlieb's a good friend of mine now, and he wrote the Jaws log, and he's the screenwriter. He adapted the Peter Benchley novel. I have 2 copies of the Jaws log now. One that I used to carry around in my back pocket, riding around my BMX, in the early '80s. And I also have one that he FedExed to me a couple years ago when we had done a couple interviews together on Combat Radio. It was a radio show based out of Los Angeles, and I got to know him. He's such a nice guy. And he said that he had a couple left of the actual first print Jaws log paperback, and he sent it to me. He FedExed it to me in LA. But that's how long, of a fan I had been of Steven Spielberg. So when I got that part, it was huge. And that's why it will always, it'll always remain like, at the top of the best memories of my life, because when I landed and I was told that Spielberg saw my audition on tape, I didn't have a screen test or anything, and he just closed his laptop and said, that guy, that Peter Shinkoda, give him the part, whatever, book him, contract, get him on a flight. So I was very happy about that, but the biggest part was getting to set, and he'd visited on the pilot, Carl Franklin, another great director, he directed the pilot. Spielberg came in, he stepped into that, stepped in and kind of directed me in a few key scenes, and that was huge, because when he came to set the first day, I didn't want to meet him at all, and a lot of the PAs and production assistants with their walkie-talkies kept coming up to me and they were asking me, "Did you meet Steven? Did you meet Steven yet?" And I kept putting it off, like a timid virgin on graduation night. I just didn't want to go through with it because it was so much in the making, this introduction. So eventually somebody pulled me in and said, "You have to meet Steven now because their scene's up and he has something to say to you." So I went into the little tent. It was scorching hot in Hamilton, Ontario. And he made an introduction. I had maybe, 5-10 minutes conversation with him. He told me how he concocted this new scene that wasn't in the script, and sitting in front of the monitor with Carl Franklin, the director, and we did it a few times, and he was yelling out there, "Okay, Peter, do it this way or do it that way," and I'd go, "Yes, sir," and then I'd turn away and go back to my start mark, but I had a hard time walking back because my knees were crumbling, and I was almost, my lip was trembling because I was going to cry, just standing there and thinking Mr. Steven Spielberg was directing me. So it was huge. to be on a production that with alongside Steven Spielberg's name in the credits is, I wish every actor in the world could, have that feeling, because I know every actor puts effort in and hopes for that, and I guess I got lucky. But I loved every minute of being on the set. I loved, it was only the first 2 seasons, but I really liked the first 2 seasons as a fan, not as a contributor, but I loved it, and I loved the crew and the cast. I made lifelong friendships with everybody. To tell you the truth, in Hollywood, it's not very often that big ensemble casts can get along. With Falling Skies, we all remain really good friends. We're all dispersed out in the wind, because the actual show ended filming, I think, in January. But whenever we all get a chance, even if it's a couple of us, we try to get together. We all remain very good friends, and I'm looking forward to seeing Noah, who I haven't seen in a couple of years, in London at the London Comic Con in a couple of weeks, because he will be in attendance, as will I. So that'll be nice. Hope we're going to be able to grab a meal or a pint together. But I made lifelong friendships, and I'm happy with the work I did in the first 2 seasons, and it's continue on. And it's sad that it's going to end. But 5 years is a good run. It's a solid run, and hopefully it wraps up really, really well. But it was a great show, and great people involved. Only good things to say about that show.
That's great. Of course, it's always great to hear when productions, the people involved in it, the cast and crew, all get along really well, because some people may not be aware that's actually not as common for people to get along for the entire time. It's actually more common for,
it's true.
them not to get along.
Guest stars. I've been on other shows where I know the leads hate each other, and I'll be walking with one of the leads to the set, and they'll be spitting on the ground, talking about the asshole that they have to work with. I'm like, what? Well, geez, let that go. Be happy you're on a show, and try to get along. But specifically with me, in the case of Falling Skies, everybody got along. Everybody just got along splendidly, and even though I was on the set of Daredevil season 1 limitedly, it seemed the same way. I got to meet pretty much all the personalities on the show, and everybody's just so sweet, just nice, and makes it all even better. Makes the dream even better when you go to work on a show like that. Yeah. So I'm appreciative, and I don't take it for granted.
So on a bad note, something I should point out, actually, Noah, I presume we're talking about Noah Weil, of course. He actually had to cancel London Film and Comic Con for work commitments, so he won't actually be attending now.
Booker. That's too bad, really. Maybe he's going... I know he's involved somewhat in the new TNT show, The Librarians, again, so maybe that's why. Or maybe he found out I was going and then he pulled out. I'm not sure. I'm going to get to the bottom of this, Ruari. That's odd.
No.
Oh, well.
Yeah, just what I should, point out before the event, just in case someone else didn't tell you.
That yet. I guess this is a recent development, because as of like 3-4 days ago, he was on the site, so...
Yeah, it was 2 days ago, pretty much, that he cancelled, I think, so...
he just had he had a child. He had the birth of a child last week with his new wife, Sarah, so I know that happened. Maybe he needs to devote that time to being, new father again, because that's his third child. I know his two older children, very nice kids, and but he was recently married a couple years ago to his new bride Sarah, and they just delivered a baby days ago, not even a week ago, I don't think. So, priorities. I understand.
Yeah. Exactly. So, moving on to my 6th question. As well as acting, you used to work as an assistant editor on films. Do you plan to get back into editing at some point?
In the mid to late 90s, I worked over at Warner Brothers at Burbank. For the record, it's the best studio to work at, for sure. The facilities are beautiful. The people at the lot, it has the biggest, number of employees on one lot. It's a beautiful facility. It's across the street, kind of, from Universal Studios that everybody knows well from the back lot tour. But in fact, Warner Brothers is the coveted place by crew. in Los Angeles. Everybody wants to work at the Warner lot because it's just so pleasant and beautiful. And I did work there, but I campaigned to get a job there because at that point I was I've been living in LA for years at that point. Try to break into the acting. I thought maybe something that would facilitate that would be working, right at the studio. So I went to a temp agency because there was a temp agency somebody turned me on to. It was in Hollywood. It was on Sunset Boulevard, and they catered specifically to only industry. To industry for industry jobs, and I signed up with that placement agency, and eventually they got me a job, but it was at some mass duplication facility down near the airport, very far, the opposite way of so far away. It was in this industrialized zone, and I was making tapes of shows that were to be distributed to affiliate networks of whatever studios around the world. So I was just watching 1,000 machines whirring and tapes going, and it was one of those kind of things. It was hardly a creative job. Eventually that ended, and I went back to that agency. I said, look, can you really concentrate on the industry and perhaps something that's closer to Hollywood here? I was living in West Hollywood at the time. They got me a job at Interscope Records for 3 months, and I worked in payroll there. I was readily fired from that, although they were going to buy me off the agency because I had said some things that upset them. They kind of admitted to me that there was a lot of propaganda in the music industry. I won't get into it, but one day my desk was cleared after lunch, and they said, if you feel this way about the music industry, maybe you should be working in it. We paid you out to the end of the week, blah, blah, blah. So then after that, I said, I went back to the agency. I said, listen, I don't want to do mass duplication of tapes. I don't want to be, working for the music industry, and can you get me something physically on a lot at Fox, at Sony, or at Warner Brothers, preferably in features, if not, television. Well, they fulfilled that. They got me a job at Warner Brothers. I started as a PA at Feature Post, which should be just called Feature Productions, because there's no really feature pre-production department. There's no such thing. Each show has their own pre-production. It's called somebody's living room where they're calling to, people begging for financing. That's pre-production. But in this case, it was feature post-production. I got a job there. I was a PA. So literally I was just gophering, material and letters and tapes and stuff around this very expansive Warner Brothers lot, which is 40,000 employees. So in that first year, I got to know the whole of the studio, not to mention the studio system that I was already enamored by for decades, because since I was a child, right? I knew what was going on already. But eventually, they were happy with my work. They bought me off my agency. I bypassed a whole bunch of other people that were in the Warner Brothers temp pool that were kind of, they were supposed to graduate into that job. A lot of people were very cheesed when I got that job, but I did my job and I did it well as a temp for the first 6 months. They bought me off the temp agency. I became a full-time Warner Brothers employee. And in our department overhead, I found out that, they could also finance school. So I went. For almost 2 years, I went to UCLA at night and worked. And they sent me to post-production for features and TV school, as well as, my shift, because you don't see my name in the credits of movies, because I worked in editing for all the shows that were shooting at Warner Brothers. All their editing suites, or, the spaces where they were doing post-production of these movies, were found somewhere on the lot. So, from any given amount of hours to days, I could be at Matrix, because we got a bunch of visual effects elements. So there was 10,000 feet of footage that was shot yesterday in Sydney, and we need a whole bunch of other people to cut in these, cut the dailies or sync them and, pop track. There was a whole bunch of duties. So once I got the training and became an apprentice editor first, I got sent all around the lot to assist their already existing editing teams. So I would do that for years, and then I graduated becoming an assistant editor. They're very, very different. Apprentice editor has certain duties, and the apprentice, and then there's an assistant editor. And then when I became an assistant editor, I also packed up my stuff and I moved to Vancouver for a handful of years to try acting, and that took off immediately. And although I had credits already, acting, and I'd done like 30, 40 commercials in Los Angeles. I made lots of money doing commercials. But, when I went up to Vancouver, I became an assistant editor, and I worked on a few films. Again, temping. I was in the temp pool of the IATSE union office in Vancouver. So they call me when somebody needed to be replaced or somebody was sick in one of these Hollywood features. So I do that. But eventually, in Vancouver, my acting started to really take off. So I had to abandon the editing. But really, to answer your question, do I want to return to it? Well, I cut my demos. I cut friends' demos here and there. But to be honest, I never sat there creatively cutting storytelling with the head editor, the editor that gets his name on the one sheet on the movie poster. That's the editor. He can have a team of up to 30 people under him, depending on the size of the production. Under him, feeding him all the media so that he can cut peacefully in his room in front of his Avid system, in front of his monitors. So occasionally I'd go and lean over his shoulder and would say, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that. I'd use some ideas. But editing is a very, very hard craft. There's only a limitation of what you can learn. After that, it's just inherent storytelling ability. How you can process in your mind or visually see. The best directors, they'll come under budget and under schedule because they're editing in their mind already. They're not going to waste any footage. They got that. They got that little clip that they can use in their sequence, and they'll yell cut. That's it. That's all I need. But he didn't even finish his sentence. I don't even need to finish the actor's sentence because I'm going to cut to the reverse angle of this. Editing is a very difficult craft, and the editors that win, like a friend of mine, Joel Cox, he works for Malpaso Entertainment. He's cut everything for Clint Eastwood. I used to talk to him every day, learning. He won his first Oscar for Unforgiven. He was nominated for American Sniper. So a lot of these big editors I got to hang around with, and before my shift started at Warner Brothers, I'd often come in for years at a time. I'd come in at 6 a.m. as opposed to 8, and in conjunction with my schooling at night, I'd be learning for a couple hours before my official shift from world-class editors. Another one's Frank Uriosty. I think he won an Oscar for cutting Die Hard. Like, he was another mentor of mine. So I hung around with these guys for years, for hours, chew their ear or watch them work. Or sometimes I'd sit them and watch them creatively cut movies. And I'd sit there and listen to everything that I could absorb. But again, these guys that are the best at the top of their game, they're deserving of it because they've worked at it. They have the seniority, and they most certainly have the natural talent and ability to do it. So it's very difficult. I cannot say that I'll just step and waltz right back in because I never was a creative editor. I was, just somebody that was contributing to their creative cutting, So, but if I could go back and work at Warner Brothers, I'd do that. That's probably my second best memory in life and in the industry, aside from acting. I loved every moment that I worked at Warner Brothers. Other than acting, that was my favorite job ever. I love everybody that I know that I consider friends over at the Warner lot, and there's hundreds of them still, and I visit there often. It's a beautiful place filled with beautiful people, and it's a movie-making, factory. I just love being there. And if I could, sometimes it gets lean between gigs, acting gigs, and I've actually considered going back, but people misinterpret that. But I actually love the job, and I love the people I work with, and I go back, and sometimes I stay there for days. So, yeah, maybe I would. I would go back. I loved my job. I loved being there, and I lived across the street from the studio, so it was like living at the studio. My gym was there. My bank was there. It's loaded with restaurants in there. So I was practically living in the studio for years in Burbank, and I go back there as much as I can.
That's great. That's really great. So, moving on to my final question: do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects you would like to talk about?
I have 3 indies that I have done in the last couple of years, and to tell you the truth, I know 2 of them. I've just landed distribution deals. There's going to be press releases, so tune in the next week or so because that's going to be announced. I can't discuss those. The 3 movies themselves being The Lady Killers, It's a dark romantic comedy. There's the Western. It's kind of a revisionist Western. And there's something called Always, also known as Inflection. That was a Hong Kong, Shanghai shot indie as well. And like I said, two of them have distribution deals that they just landed. They'll all be coming, screened somewhere. It's a weird launch rollout time for any kind of films now. Because I'm not too familiar exactly if it's going to be released. I know there can be limited theatrical releases, a week or two in some select markets, but they'll eventually be available on VOD, I'm sure, if not Netflix and Amazon Prime. But again, I'm really not familiar with that administrative, bureaucratic side. I try to keep that at a distance, or I'll lose my mind. But they're coming out, and I am off to start shooting something else in a month, but I cannot talk about it, unfortunately.
Okay, great. So I'll be sure to keep an eye out for news on all of those indie projects you mentioned. So that's all of our questions to you today, Peter. It's been a pleasure talking
Rory,
to you on the podcast.
It's my pleasure talking to you. I'm glad I have a fan in Dublin. I have a lot of Irish friends, and every St. Patrick's Day I go out and I party. I'm looking for my Irish fans, so I'm shouting out to you, all of you, in Belfast, everywhere, Dublin. Come visit me down in London. I'll be there in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we'll be sure to do so. So hopefully we can talk to you again at some point.
I'd love to talk to you again, Rory. Thanks again. Like I said, it's surreal. I'm very flattered every time someone, especially across the world, wants to talk to me. I'm just some punk from Canada, so it's very hard for me to accept, but I really appreciate it. I really do appreciate it, Rory.
You're very welcome. So I'll talk to you again soon. Then bye, and thanks again for joining us.
See you later.
So that was our interview with actor Peter Shinkoda. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. So make sure to check out our podcast links. Check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Email us below email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comiccast, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekcomiccast. Make sure to check out the hosts' YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/Sepidus Check out Peter Shinkoda's website, www.petershinkoda.com, and check out Channel 113 we broadcast live from, www.channel113.com. So geeks out, everyone.